And now the head of the United States Central Command, General David Petraeus. General Petraeus, honor to have you on.
Great to be with you, Fareed.
What do you hope to see come out of the Iraqi election?
Well, I'd like to see a government that continues to do what this one does, which is to be generally representative of the people, responsive to all the people, and to continue the progress that has been achieved over the course of the last couple of years, again, in the economic, social, and political realms. You know, and keeping all of the Iraqis together as well, hugely important.
But that American troop withdrawals are slated to continue and to be down to 0 combat troops at the end of 2011. Is that a pledge you think you will be able to fulfill?
Well, first, let's focus initially on where we're headed right now. First, we're about 96,000 or so right now, down from 165,000 or so at the height of the surge in other periods, and headed down to 50,000 by the end of August. Then, of course, with the new government in place, there will be the dialogue about what is it that the sovereign Iraq, with its newly elected government that will be in place for 4 years, will want in terms of a security relationship with the United States. There's some sense that they may want to continue a security assistance relationship at the least, something we have with virtually all the other countries in the Central Command region, especially given that they are, of course, they've got a lot of American hardware, a lot of American tactics, techniques, and procedures. There are some very good intelligence sharing arrangements and so forth. But that's up to that government.
Let me ask you about one of Iraq's neighbors, Iran. When you were up in the north, one of the things you had to deal with, and even during the surge, was Iranian forces, Quds forces, in many ways fomenting the violence in Iraq, either by supplying weapons or arms, militias, all kinds of things. Apparently these security services are now, the Quds forces, now spending a lot more of its time worrying about what's going on in Iran, trying to put down the opposition movements there. Has that changed the political dynamic in Iraq? Are you finding that the Iranians have, in a sense, packed up and gone home?
Well, first, I think you're absolutely right to say that the security elements in Iran, particularly the Revolutionary Guards Corps, the Quds Force, and the Basij, the militia, have had to focus a great deal more on internal security challenges than they did in the past. And indeed, I think you've heard it said by pundits that Iran has gone from being a theocracy to a thugocracy, that it has frankly become much more of a police state than it ever was in the past since the revolution. And that is, again, because of the emergence of this reform movement of the citizens who were outraged at the hijacking of the election that took place back last summer.
Do you think Ahmed Chalabi is an agent of Iran or influenced by Iran or carrying out an Iranian agenda in Iraq?
Well, I think, again, this is less about what we think. This is about what Iraqi leaders think. And Iraqi leaders have obviously not been overly pleased with some of the political high drama that has been fomented by the Accountability and Justice Committee, which has been orchestrated, indeed, by Dr. Chalabi. And again,
that committee was behind this renewed de-Baathification and this attempt to disbar a whole set of people from running.
Yes, I mean, indeed. They announced the list. They determined who was on it. They had a key role in the adjudication of it later as appeals were issued and so forth. So, and that did indeed, especially coming so close to the actual elections, cause quite a bit of political turmoil. They've worked through it. The fact is there are tens of thousands of candidates, of which several hundred now in the end will have been disqualified. As with everything in Iraq, there's, again, with Irocracy, as we have termed it at times, there's often a considerable degree of emotion. There is, again, drama. But at the end of the day, or perhaps sometimes a little after the end of the day, they manage to work through it.
Do you think that the Iranian regime has made a decision that they are going to try to get a nuclear weapon, or do you think it is still unclear whether they want a robust nuclear civilian capacity and a robust missile capacity, but they haven't yet decided whether they will join the two?
I think it's something slightly different, actually. I think, first of all, that there can be a debate about whether or not the final decision has made. Now, transitioning, of course, from what was the diplomacy track for about a year, where everyone made every good faith effort, extended the open hand, and it was not met with an open hand. It was met with intransigence and obfuscation and evasion. And now the result is the transition by not just the United States, but with France, with the UK, even Russia now, all seeing the need to transition to the so-called pressure track, which would include much stiffer sanctions and so forth.
Don't you have the beginning of a very robust containment strategy, though, and you would be the one actually who would probably be principally charged with the military operationalization of this? You have the Gulf states, the Sunni states, Egypt, Israel, the major European countries, perhaps even Russia, all arrayed, along this common interest that Iran not become a nuclear power. Wouldn't it be possible to contain it?
Well, it's interesting. I think there is almost a slight degree of bipolarity there at times. On the one hand, there are countries that would like to see a strike, us or perhaps Israel even. And then there's the worry that someone will strike, and then there's also the worry that someone will not strike. And again, reconciling that is one of the challenges of operating in the region right now. Our job right now is to ensure that we're prepared for any contingencies, that we can support, indeed, with the diplomatic efforts to transition now to the pressure track and so forth. And that's indeed what we're endeavoring to do with our partners, who, by the way, find that President Ahmadinejad is often our best recruiting officer, because his actions, his rhetoric, and the other activities of Iran, in many cases, are causing much more embrace of CENTCOM and other activities than otherwise would be the case.